You have a new goal, you're excited. You start telling your friends and your family who you're about to be. You know it needs consistency. You've heard about them talk about determination. But then it's time to finally take those first steps yourself. Good intentions turn into overwhelm. Netflix and chill by yourself. You're really not sure if that self-sabotage is too great to overcome. Now, I've felt this before. I'm sure you felt this as well. And because we are masochists and we like to hurt ourselves, I want to let you know right now, we're going to start filling our toolbox with some practical tools to start chipping away at the old procrastination block. Step 1, clarity. This step has changed my life and how I choose to continue and or take new opportunities. I started reading the book by Brendon Burchard, I believe it's High Performing Habits. Whole chapter on clarity. It blew my mind. Because I'm sure I heard it before, but it just clicked. Right place, right time. I want you to think, if you can't give me your elevator pitch of what you're trying to achieve with your creative goals and have a plan of how you're going to go about achieving that, you have more digging to do. If you have a chance, stop right now. Think about it. Can you put into plain words or plain English for anybody to really understand? To be honest, I created this video and I had to think about it myself and kind of write it down and make it more concise. When we think about an elevator pitch, you want to think about that guy, that girl shows up in your life, all the money in the world, all the context in the world. She says, I'm ready to invest. Let's do this. You just got to let me know what's going on, what's your plan, but I'm ready to go. So let me tell you, my goals are this. I want to fully live off my creative talents. I want to have the flexibility with my time and how and when I choose to work. I want to make sure I'm spending time with those I really care about. And what I'm doing with this YouTube channel, I want to help people build the tools that allow them to better create in and through their passion. But above all else, the person that should really understand what's going on is yourself. It's going to allow you to better assess if what you're doing is what you should be doing, or you're just going through some distractions, or you're just doing some busy work. But one thing I want you to know as well, with time and experience, this elevator pitch is going to be modified. It's going to change. The more you get into what you're getting into, you're going to start to understand things differently that you didn't know before. Like they say, you don't know what you don't know. So allow this to evolve, allow it to change. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey says this, all right? Writing or reviewing a mission statement changes you because it forces you to think through your priorities deeply, carefully, and to align your behavior with your beliefs. Because the reality is, mastery is doo-doo, all right? It sucks. Mastery is monotonous. Mastery is boring. I read about a year ago the book by George Leonard. In his book called The Mastery, The Key Success and Long-Term Fulfillment, he says this is an exonerable fact of the journey. You also have to be willing to spend most of your time on a plateau, keep practicing even when you seem to be getting nowhere. And from this quote, what I really gathered when I first heard it was, oh, it's really about the journey. They tell you it's about the journey, but it's really about the journey, and going through the journey, accepting the journey for what it is what allows you to get to that next level. You have to be okay with the journey almost feeling monotonous and boring and sucking. And with this understanding of what the journey and what it is and what it's going to be and what it should be, it does become more enjoyable. You do get an enjoyment in doing the details that many won't do. Because if many won't do them, and you're doing them, how much further are you going to get than other people? So you have to have this idea of being impatiently patient when working on your craft. And that's going to bring us to step 2. Expect to fail a lot. But before I continue, I want to ask you if anything what I'm saying right now is resonating with you. I want to ask you can comment, please. Suggest down if there's something that you want me to talk about going further. And of course, subscribe. There's going to be a lot more of this kind of content, how to get creatives and people just trying to be productive alike to the next level. So let's talk about the misconception. There's this misconception that there's that one last skill, that one last method you got to learn, you got to get to, and then finally it's all going to come together like that beautiful plan. But the truth is, especially when you're starting on your journey, a lot of it is understanding what does it take for you to actually be disciplined in the skills that are necessary for you to even go ahead and attempt mastery at your particular craft. If you know James Clear, who wrote Atomic Habits, talks often about that idea and that power of just focusing on getting 1% better at a time. He says, if you get 1% better each day for 1 year, you're gonna end up 37 times better by the time you're done. Now, I'm gonna trust that math is right. I don't know where that math is coming from, but understand you're getting a lot better. 37 times better, give me that, okay? Now that brings us to step 3, the plateau in you, how to push through. There's a book by Josh Kaufman called The First 20 Hours. Now, the whole idea of the book is that you can learn a lot of skills and you can get to a level of proficiency with 20 hours in that skill. The idea of the book is just to get started. But what that book doesn't go through, I mean, I don't believe it goes through. I read this book about a few years ago when I was just getting started on my particular journey of music. But what it doesn't really go into detail about, once you get to that 20 hours, okay, now you're proficient, you might be, impressing your friends, your family. They're like, oh, wow, you could do that thing. We didn't know you could do that. That's pretty cool. You feeling good about yourself. But now as a creative and you're trying to expand on your skills, that's when that plateau actually sets in. So if you think about yourself before you started those 20 hours, you would have been happy we end up in those 20 hours. But at that particular point, that's where we hear creatives talk about writing blocks. That's where we hear about, those people who maybe go on those crash diets. They're getting all those results. They're losing the weight. They're building muscle. And they get to a point where it's like, what? It's not working no more. What do I do? Well, the truth is, it's just continue to do what you're doing. Now, it's supposed to be boring like we talked about. It's supposed to be monotonous. But like everything else when it comes to success, it requires a consistency to push through those times. Something that I love that always marked me, he said about my favorite artist, James Fauntleroy. I think the question, they asked him something along the lines of like writer's block. Does he get writer's block? And his answer essentially was like, no, I don't get writer's block. I just write. Sometimes the song sucks. Sometimes the song is good. But I just write. That's not a thing. It's only a thing because we make it a thing. It's just a question of it takes more time and it takes more chances at bat. You got to keep going. You got to keep pushing through. That's where I believe a lot of people fail. They fail to even get to the point of seeing the results that they're actually working for. And one thing you got to be mindful too is the reason why it feels like a block, the reason why it feels like you're stagnating in your skills is that the old you won't do anymore. And that's a great thing. That means you've gotten better at least at some point. It means that what you used to do back in the day that you would have been really, would have been awesome to hear, it just isn't good anymore. It's not working for you. So it means you're on to the next level. And that means that you're probably going to get a point where you're going to start pushing through and start moving with that trajectory going up now. So the key is understanding that, yes, you are on a plateau, but that's what it should look like. That's normal. Keep pushing through. You're going to make it to the next level. But this is part of the journey. Every great has to go through it. The faster you go at it, the faster you fail, the faster you get to those successes. So that's the important part of just failing fast, not worrying about falling on your face. Because the more you fall on your face, the more you get up, the more you get better, the more you get stronger. Some little things you want to be aware of, especially when you're building skills to be creative. Now, we understand when you're building skills to be creative, there's a lot of levels to it. Now, we might talk about, your main thing. My main thing is making music. But making music comes along with a lot of different skills I have to do. And I'm an independent too. So even as an independent artist, there's a lot of hats you're going to have to wear whether you like it or not. So that could be to the point of, I'm producing, I'm mixing, I'm doing the songwriting. Sometimes I might do the mastering. There's 3 things that I've encountered when building those skills that I want you to be aware of. The first skill is building the skill that is maybe within your creative, but it's not really serving you. So I'll give you an example for myself. When I release my music, I usually work with a co-producer that I like to work with. He has great bass lines. He's a great keyboard player. I like having his touch on there and make sure that I don't get too stagnant in my style and what I'm doing, that it kind of merges things together to create something that I feel like gives it a fresh look, a fresh take, makes it a little bit more new, right? I mean, right here, you can see in the back, I bought a bass. I was getting committed, practicing every day. I even tracked a couple of songs with the bass and I was like, this is cool. I'm getting better. But the truth is building the skill is taking away from me creating more and being more proficient with how many songs and output I can make. When I know I can work with this co-producer and it's better for me to work with him anyways, he's going to add that stuff. So at least for right now, it doesn't make sense for me to build in the skill because I have someone who's able to do it. And even getting myself to a proficiency, he still has years and years and years of mastery ahead of me on the bass itself. So let me just work on the main goal, which is making music, which that was taken away from. The second idea of that skill is that it's actually something you need. It's like something you need and might want to build, but the time it's going to take and the resources that it's going to take for you to actually build those skills don't make sense. For example, in my own particular situation, I mix my own music. I have to mix my own music. Mastering is the last chain when it comes to making music. I was getting better at mastering music. And when I was trying to master my own project that came out a year and a half ago in the end of 2021, I just wasn't getting the results I needed. I was about 10% away from where I wanted to get, which is kind of a significant jump when you're talking about mastery. So I told myself, wait a minute, I could pay someone to do this for about 100, 150 bucks. You know, it's gonna get me pretty close to what I want. They got a lot of gear that's super expensive that they would run it through that I don't even have access to. You know what, let me just pay that person for their skill that they've built up for years. I could practice this thing for my unofficial releases down the line that maybe one day I'll take over the reins of it. But again, to create more music, even though it's something I do want to add to the skill set, it doesn't make sense for me to add it right now and take time away from the main focus. Now, the last thing you're going to encounter, of course, is building the right skill. So when you get to that thing that's building the right skill, for me, it's creating a lot of songs. I know that if I produce every single day, I challenge myself to at least do an 8-bar, 16-bar loop. You know, after a year, that's 365 ideas. You know, at the very least, the very minimum, that's 300 ideas that now I can go and choose the best of those to release now and make great songs for the world. If you think of an album of 10 songs, a lot of times these artists are creating 100, 150, 200 plus songs to give you the 10 best songs. And then people still might not even like it. So for me, the more I put up, the more opportunity to give myself to get to a song that I really love and I really feel good about releasing to the world. So you want to be thoughtful about the skills that you actually go after building, and don't be afraid to drop that skill quick when you realize it's not really pushing you forward towards your goal. It's more deterring you away from being able to get the output and the reps you really need to get to be successful in what you're trying to do. Above all else, these are merely tools. I want you to go and create the masterpiece that only you are meant to share. Peace. I'm out.